Well, to Abidjan in Cote d'Ivoire we now go, because it's once again the setting of one of the biggest gatherings of the most influential African and international CEOs, bankers and investors. It's the 6th year the Africa CEO Forum for 2018 is being launched, and it's bringing over 700 CEOs from more than 60 countries for discussion, debate and exchange on big issues regarding Africa's economic development. Addressing the forum, both presidents of Zimbabwe and Ghana called on investors to invest in their countries. SABC News anchor Peter Ndoro is in Abidjan and is joining us now to tell us more about this year's gathering. And of course, there is a bit of a delay going through to Abidjan this evening, so bear with us. Peter, good evening to you. Of course, as I said in that introduction, it is the largest gathering of African and international companies from over 40 countries. It's the second one in Abidjan, and does it give us a sense of just what a power player Cote d'Ivoire is in the region?
Bongani, thank you very much indeed. Look, it's a significant gathering, and I think it's more about the people that are here rather than the location itself. They alternate between Abidjan and Geneva each year. They go to one country. So this year it's Africa's turn, and it's more than 60 countries actually that are represented here from not just Africa but beyond as well. But I think at the level of participants is really what's significant, and we're talking about CEOs, chairpersons of boards. So this is the private sector that's really making the decisions and really kind of shaping commerce on the continent, to gathering in one place to discuss, the big issues of the day and the issues that the continent needs to grapple with, particularly as business people. There are some government people, but not a huge presence. It's more about the private sector talking to each other. But we did see, as you mentioned in the intro there, that we had Presidents Nana Akufo-Addo from Ghana, we had President Alassane Ouattara, the host president, and also President Mnangagwa, who was here. And they've been talking about creating an enabling environment for business to do what it needs to do, singing from the same hymn sheet, I guess, about Africa really needs to be the champions and take its place in the world and lead actually from the front. And we have an opportunity to do that, particularly when one considers that we've got the technologies that can help us leapfrog some of the steps that the West and the first world, inverted commas, they had to go through a number of steps to get to where they are now. But because of the technologies that are there, Africa can jump a number of those steps. And so the opportunities are there. Of course, there are fears that jobs will be lost with these technological disruptions, but they're saying that we need to rethink our developmental agenda given the future that's playing out. So a number of issues that they spoke about, the usual ones, I guess, infrastructure. They talked about things like health and financial inclusion, another big one, given again the use of technology. How do we include more people in the banking systems with the technology that's available? There's a number of panels actually looking at women in particular, and one frightening statistic is just 5% of the big corporations across the continent have women as leaders. And so this is something that's a huge concern. And I think there was a survey that was done not too long ago that companies that do have women in senior positions perform as much as 20% better than companies that don't. So this is something that we need to deal with. I actually spoke to Massmart chairperson Kuseni Dlamini, and he says that I think part of the problem has been legacy issues and patriarchy and culture. But it's something that really needs to be dealt with. So women is a big issue. And also startups. They're saying that the future is going to be run by young people. The average age of the African on the continent is just 19. So the kind of work and the kind of businesses they'll be running really are going to be driven by technology. And so companies like Microsoft are working very hard to create an enabling environment for these startups. And they featured prominently in the discussions today, sort of laying the groundwork for the future economy and the future leaders. And they even talked about leaders being much younger going forward in the future. So, yeah, infrastructure, as I said, it's catch-up time. There seems to be a deficit between the financing and the needs. And so innovative ideas on how to plug that gap are required. So that was day one. We've got another day tomorrow, which begins with President Mnangagwa holding a breakfast session. And his message is clear. He says that Zimbabwe is open for business. They're getting rid of all the restrictive practices. He says that investment will go where people feel safe. And he says he's doing as much as he can to make sure that risks are taken out of the equation. And he's basically opening his arms to investment all over the world. He says, we're looking for partners, help us build Zimbabwe, we're open for business, was his message. And Alassane Ouattara, again, the same kind of message. And President Addo from Ghana was saying that Ghana is growing and growing at a pace. In fact, their growth rate is predicted to be something in the order of 8.3% next year, which will be the fastest growing economy in the world. So very, very exciting times. And so tomorrow we look forward to more discussions from this Africa CEO Forum, which has started on a very optimistic note here in Abidjan in Ivory Coast. Back to you.
Thank you, Peter, there in Abidjan. And of course, a big theme for tomorrow's discussions is going to be part of that interpresidential panel, which is going to be focusing on rebuilding Africa's economies.